for. I can see it in your eyes. I can see it in your smile. Hello, hello. I know exactly how you talk based off of the type of comment that you just said. My guess is you have a predilection towards mumble mouth. Hi there, welcome to Real Sales Dynamics, where we break down in-field sales footage in order to get you better at door knocking. Today though, it's about you and your YouTube comments. Yes, we're actually gonna be responding to many of the comments that we see down below. Now, the ones that are saying that we're the best door knocking channel that ever existed, there's a good amount of them. We don't really have to respond much to those. We just wanna say thank you from the bottom of our heart. If it wasn't for you guys actually watching this channel, we wouldn't continuously be making these videos on a consistent basis. But the first comment is, talking too much on the doors hurts you. Absolutely correct. In fact, being more interesting than interested is one of the main things I try to train people on. Our job is not to educate customers, right? That's what the 1990s new school of sales tries to teach you, to be incredibly empathetic with everyone you're talking to. No, your job is to sell a product and connect with that person as quickly as you possibly can. But by getting them to start talking and get engagement with you rather than over talking and oversharing, that person is actually gonna wanna spend more time with you. Right? People want to be able to communicate. And in many cases, they're stuck at home not talking to anyone for maybe weeks on weeks. Their kids haven't even talked to them in the last 6 years. So there you are, the person that's willing to listen to their little story just enough so they finally sign docs. Be more interested and interesting. I agree with this comment. Next one, I'm getting offered for a job at Amp Solar. Is it worth it? Should I take the step? Because they are a company who really believes in litigation, I'm not gonna say too much outside of, if you're more interested in culture than money, go ahead and work for AMP. If you're more interested in making a significant amount of money per project that you do sell, try and work with maybe a broker company or people who know a little bit more about what they're selling. Rather than vacations they'll send you on if you sell 30 deals in a month. Next comment, I'd pay money to see sleazy salesmen install the product they sell. They can't and they won't. Yet they make way more than the people who are slaving away. This is called communism, and it's fine. So the thing is, you're paid in direct proportion to the problems you're capable of solving. Many people can learn how to install solar panels. Being able to go out in Florida and knock in 100-degree temperatures while dealing with people who occasionally pull guns on you or just say incredibly crazy things on a consistent basis, yeah, you get paid a lot more for those things. This is how capitalism works, and capitalism springs things like wonderful tables for just $100. This beautiful lighting, this awesome phone, everything that makes your life enjoyable, including the phone that you're literally communicating with us on. So you don't have an issue with us, you have an issue with the fact that you're really bad at selling things, which is why you're leaving YouTube comments like that. Go get a job, become a real person, make something of your life, because you're gonna die one day and you wanna leave a lasting legacy. Next one up, are you Sunrun because they are the #1 solar company? I'm guessing that this is just a response to us stating that the company we're working for was the #1 company in that area. Correct. How do we define a #1? Is it most amount of lawsuits? Is it the most amount of liability that you're holding at any given moment? Is it your lack of ability of being able to contact customers in case there's issues with their system? If that is the case, Sunrun might be the #1 option. Outside of that, I kid. I sold Sunrun for a long time. They are a effectively run company at being able to generate as much income possible for themselves. I just made a whole case for capitalism, so I can't say anything against them. They're one of the first companies in the market, specifically in the West Coast, offering things like power purchase agreements, which are fascinating financial tools that generate significant amounts of income and lowers the amount of tax liability for the companies that they sell those tax credits to, so good on them. Outside of that, I wouldn't particularly use that company to be selling in Florida because they pay so badly. And the reviews are not phenomenal. I think that's the nicest way I could say it. The next review, solar companies always go bankrupt. Ooh, this one hurts. Yeah. It happens, right? SunPower, woo, right? Sonova, not paying out on a lot of projects, right? There's a lot of companies out there who, though they make significant amounts of money, can be incredibly irresponsible with that money. I'll give you a couple of examples of this with really complicated bank financing. So if you recall, the tax credit, right, went up when the Inflation Reduction Act went up, right? It went from back to being like 22% or 26%. It shot up an additional 30% tax credit. Great. Do you know what banking companies did? They increased the finance charges / dealer fees up 4 to 6% as soon as that happened. You have companies like Enphase and companies like Qcell. Qcell is a Korean company who's now producing panels in Georgia. And what they're doing is, hey, great. Now you guys can get a 10% tax credit because you're buying your US made panels. What are we gonna do? We're gonna change the SKU numbers on those same exact panels, those same exact inverters, and sell them at anywhere between a 10 and 20% higher cost to those installation companies, right? So the government gives out a discount, then the manufacturer of those panels increase the pricing. And the reason for this is because the government creates weasels, right? Every single time a new incentive comes out, oftentimes that leads to people creating manipulations in the market in order to best benefit from those in those situations. It's not saying that selling solar is terrible. It's just be aware of these things, that when stuff like this happens, you're going to end up with issues. Now, going back to the bankruptcy issue, there's a lot of reasons for that, and we went over a lot of them in our video, What the Heck's Going On in the Solar Industry Right Now. But importantly, you find that there's these large-scale installers who are taking too many risks in unprofitable markets where it's not necessarily a huge benefit for homeowners in those situations to actually go solar, right? Areas like Kentucky and in Missouri, or in certain cases, Oklahoma. Shout out to you Oklahoma guys out there. I know you guys are crushing it. But a lot of cases, they're actually not selling the customers much as far as savings goes. Then when interest rates go up, less customers actually be buying their products. Meanwhile, they've built all this infrastructure in these various markets that they end up losing money out on, taking these big risks, hoping that the sales are going to be able to cover all their costs. They don't come. Bam, declare bankruptcy, and they call it a day. It's always a good idea to keep abreast on what's going on in the solar market on a consistent basis. If everyone's telling you the company you're working for is the best company in the world, believe them for that time, live with that conviction, but always keep rational, keep reasonable in order to make sure you're not making too many mistakes. On occasion, yeah, you end up losing a couple $100,000 because you decided to put a couple deals through SunPower and it didn't pay out. It happens, but thankfully you've sold so many deals throughout your career, you're able to deal with those kinds of problems. Next coming up, I'm sorry, but bruh, the hand movements are just too much. Ooh, it's irritating. I'm sorry, but no one says anything. I love you, bro, but the hand movement's just too much, fam. My guess is, based off of the way that you wrote this, you have a case of what we'd like to call mumble mouth. Something like this, where you talk a bit like this, and so whenever you write things down, there's not like proper punctuation whatsoever, because you really understand how that works.
Stop it. Get some help.
Clarity is very important when you're speaking, so there's a little a suggestion I have for you to get over your mumble mouth. Open up your mouth more when you talk, and then strengthen up your vocals. A great practice for that is by going. It's great, right? It straightens up those vocal cords, it lets the mucus kind of go around, and then you can actually speak more clearly. Now, regarding my hand movements, yes, I use a lot of them in order to generate interest and intrigue with people, because if you're like this on a consistent basis, whenever you're knocking doors, people are going to be thinking that you're insecure and you're hiding something. Don't hide anything, Matthew. Speak loudly and clearly. You can do it! Use your hands, generate energy from them, and win over customers. And a great side effect from getting rid of your mumble mouth is that suddenly out of nowhere, you start wanting to be able to speak with your hands because you're speaking clearly, and people want to actually listen to what you're saying. Just do it! Next comment from Nico Central. I love that. Honest conflict over dishonest harmony. I would love to get to know more about what that means. So that is a quote from a buddy of mine I used to work with over at Legacy named Diego. Honest conflict over dishonest harmony. The idea is, if you're dealing with a situation with the customer where you are consistently fibbing or lying to that customer, they're going to be able to catch that after a while. And when they catch that, they're no longer going to trust you in the conversation. Now, you might get away with lying and selling for a long period of time. Plenty of guys do. A couple things are going to catch up to you, either the law or, number two, cancellations. Right? And if people are consistently canceling, installers are going to want to work with you, reps are going to want to work with you anymore. People aren't going to want to be mentored by you. You're going to end up being broke and putting in a lot of energy and not getting a lot of money back as a result. Another thing to suggest with that, though, is that when you're talking to a customer, here's an example of it. They'll say something like, "You're telling me that no matter how much power I use, my bill is only going to be $150 a month?" No! Solar isn't magic. If you decide to plug in 3 Teslas on the side of your house, yeah, you're going to start getting a net electricity bill, right? All solar is doing is producing enough power so it can hopefully cover 100% of your current electricity usage right now. Obviously, if your utility has grid charges, you might still end up having a bill of, say, $10 to $15 a month. That depends on utilities. And I'm looking at you, comment sections, who say you still have to pay utilities $50. It depends, right? Every utility is a little bit different. And you probably don't even know which utility we're selling in. So don't make generic statements like that on these comment sections. You just look ridiculous. Honestly, when it comes to dealing with your reps, be transparent with them. Don't recruit people by telling them, "Hey, this guy, Bob, made $100,000 in his first month." Bob probably didn't. Bob might have set a bunch of leads for a guy that may have closed. But the reason why they closed isn't just because Bob was good, it's because that closure was freaking phenomenal. Right? This is one of the issues I run into recruiting people, is that a setter will work with me for a little bit. I'll close up a bunch of his deals, even if they were junk leads, because I'm really good at closing. And then they think, "Oh, I'm amazing," go try to close themselves, but they never actually bothered to learn any of the stuff in between. Now they're off of the races and not really winning any of those races. So being transparent with your reps, being transparent with your partner, if you're dating someone, you're loving someone, you're marrying someone, and then being honest with the installers or the companies that you're working with as far as what you expect to get out of the relationship as a whole, like working for those people, and what you're seeking, right? Are you seeking more training? Are you seeking to learn more? Are you being honest with yourself? Are you telling people that you're working every single day, 8-4-7 grind set, but you're actually only knocking 1 or 2 hours a day? One of the big reasons why I like Knockbase, and they're not an app for us, we don't advertise for them, but when you knock on doors, it'll immediately start off a little clock letting you know how many hours you've actually been working that day. So, you say, "I went out for 7 hours today," but it turns out 3 or 4 of those hours you're actually just hanging out in your car and not really doing anything. If you're not honest with yourself first, you're not gonna be able to be honest with customers, and then you're not really gonna succeed. And most importantly, you're just gonna live a meaningless, sad-ass life, and no one wants to do that. Any advice on what to look with when partnering with a solar installation company to start selling solar with your own business? Trying to understand what he's stating there. I'm guessing he runs some kind of home renovation company, and he's trying to work with a solar company as well. The first step is look up their reviews. Your customers are going to see that installer's online reviews. If you run a solar broker company, the installer's reviews matter. Yours don't really, because it's the installer who's actually going to get those projects through. So that's the first thing to look up. Number 2 is local can be better, just depending on the situation, right? Areas like Florida tends to work significantly better when you're working with local installers who understand local permitting laws, local infrastructure laws, right? What kind of racking systems can you use on homes? You can also generally get better redline rates with that as a whole. Then number 3 is, are they subcontracting out their work? If you're company A and you're working with company B, and company B is subcontracting out to company C, and then whenever you want to get your roofing done on a solar project, they got a subcontractor to company D, well, everywhere down the line, there's someone like me trying to get some of the money off each one of those interactions. What does that mean? Well, that means 1, everyone has less agency or liability. No, it wasn't my fault, it was subcontractor D. Number 2, everyone needs to make a little bit of money, which means you're gonna end up making less money in the end, right? So working with local guys who aren't subcontractors, who've done a lot of work, right? Because the more work they've done with various manufacturers, it means that overall their costs are gonna be lower on net. And then number 4, do you actually like hanging out with them and talking to them? If they're a bunch of freaking weirdos that you can't have a normal conversation with, and they're always obfuscating every single time you have a conversation regarding what's going on between financing and what's going on with projects, leave them aside, go work with some other good guys. Just make sure that you have all of your contracts set up correctly so that, let's say you go from having volume with A, then go have volume with B, that volume with A, that company there doesn't suddenly out of nowhere say, "Hey, I'm not paying you anymore." Next one here. Is this guy wearing a Panda Daytona in the hood? Yes. Yeah, I like this watch. It's a beautiful watch. I think if you get a really nice, expensive watch, you should show it off and wear it. That's the point of having a nice watch. It's not to be held up. And the funny thing about watches, just like really nice cars, is that the more you use them, the better they work long term, right? It's the same for guitars. I have an absurd guitar collection. The more you use those things, the better they work. If you just let them die in the closet or in a garage, then no one ever gets to see them, which is sad. And then they stop working when you actually want to use them, which is even more sad. So yeah, I rock Rolex in the hood. Next comment from Pablo Chavez 8539. This was in reference to Bryn, who is Rhodesian or Zimbabwean. It is, why is he white? So Bryn is African. And Bryn is one of my favorite people. He is from a country which is formerly known as Rhodesia, that is now known as Zimbabwe. And yes, there are white Africans. Britain colonized certain aspects of Africa quite a while ago. One of those colonies was called Rhodesia. I just got into sales. This is my second week, and I'm still trying to get a hang of it. But we don't have iPads to show them the potential savings. You don't need an iPad to sell. In fact, you don't even need a phone. You can just go out and knock. Now, stating that, go online right now, and there's this thing, it's called a printer. I know it's crazy, but you can print different statements made by the utility company. There's a lot of them out there. Duke, it'll say, 21% rate hike. And in fact, for the company you're working with, I bet you a bunch of other guys have these. They're usually called slicks. You print out all of the different things that say utility companies' rates are increasing. In Florida, it's been like a 40% rate hike over the course of this last 4 years. You show those, you demonstrate that you know what you're talking about, you know your pitch, you get the bill from the customer, great, you set up your lead. You don't need an iPad in order to be able to do that. And by using slicks, it's actually really helpful too, because you can hand them to your customer, hey, rates are going up, and then now you have that as like an anchor point where they're holding on to that slick, and now you just keep talking to them the entire time. Now, personally, I'm kind of lazy when I knock. I wear a nice little satchel with an iPad and drone in it, right? Because for me, when I knock someone's door, I like flying a drone on top of their house, showing them different stuff and everything else. By the way, drones aren't magically expensive. You can buy really cheap ones on Temu for like $100. That'll last for about 6 months. That generates interest with the customer, right? Breaks preoccupation. And then I can do my same day sale with that iPad right after that. Last comment from Pawamauto. Solar Brothers, thank you for everything you do for the community. Thank you for watching this wonderful channel. We are now hitting 34,000 subscribers, which is insane for such a niche industry. There are more people subscribed to this channel than there are knocking doors for sales right now in America, and that's because of guys and girls like you. But there's a lot more of you out there. In fact, over 80% of all the people who watch this channel aren't even subscribed, which is absolutely insane. So make sure to click down below to subscribe. If you want to learn how to sell in person, to be a true solar ninja, click down below at flblitz.com. We are doing a blitz coming soon. And most importantly, click on one of these two little videos. YouTube thinks you're gonna like it a lot.